but this is being live streamed.
And it's being recorded for some reason. Please don't use my likeness without my permission or a fat check.
Realize this.
Well, actually, fat checks and little checks are about the same, aren't they?
Yeah, no, fat checks, little checks, any check, even PayPal, all of it. It all works. Good morning, Michael Knight. How are you?
I'm in Pasadena, New York, Vinnie. Where are you?
I'm in Seattle, Washington, where there are some blue skies poking out from the soft tufts of cotton-like clouds that we see passing over the town of Edmonds.
We're supposed to get 74 degrees today, but it doesn't feel like it.
Yeah, I don't know what it's going to be here today, but it doesn't feel like it's going to get too hot.
Yankees get Miguel Castro from the Mets for Joely Rodriguez, pitcher for pitcher.
I think Miguel Castro was here for a while, if I'm not mistaken.
Does he still have an apartment there, do you think?
Probably. He's probably subletting it because apartments here are so ridiculous that I don't see anybody that would have an apartment here that would not try to sublet it for $500 over what they're paying.
Is that legal?
Depends on if you have it in your lease.
So it's my apartment. I own it. I rent it to you. You leave and you sublet it to your daughter, who sublets it to her cat, who sublets it to Joely Rodriguez.
It depends. Yeah, it depends on how. I mean, I'm sure that in many ways, they've probably changed the language because I'm sure that people were doing exactly that. I know in New York with rent control, that was a very popular thing. Is people would not take the apartments out of their name. They would have an apartment that was rent controlled, and they would pay, I don't know, $300 a month because their parents had been there and so on and so forth. And they would rent those apartments out for $1,000 a month.
Well, if New York can control their rents, how come America can't control their gas prices? Is what I want to know.
Because nobody has the nuts to stand up to the oil companies, Michael. It's really what it is. If somebody somewhere has to stand up to the oil companies and say, listen, if you guys want more permits to drill, if you guys want more permissions, if you want more tax incentives, then you got to drop the price for the people. Or that being said, the president has to at some point say by executive order that I'm freezing the price of gasoline.
I can take care of this or you can take care of it. How do you want to do it? I can pick up this check or you can.
Right. But nobody has a stomach for doing what Nixon did back in the 70s. And that is, a wage and price freezes when inflation got so out of whack.
Because there was a panic.
Yeah. And he knew that if those prices got out of control as they were headed, he would never get reelected.
People don't get reelected under situations like that.
And so he put the cuffs on him and he said, hey, you know what? We're gonna freeze this up until we can get it sorted out. We're gonna.
Well, if Biden wants another couple million votes, that's how you do it. That's how you do it. You put the controls on the people who are doing the most damage to the nation.
Right.
Not Vladimir Putin.
But could you imagine if Biden stood up today and said, I'm going to freeze the price of gasoline?
Might make a headline.
The Republicans would be, Marjorie Taylor Greene would be standing out in front of the White House with on top of the fence like a nitwit.
You mean like a nitwit or as a nitwit?
As a nitwit, I take the correction.
Because if you're a nitwit and you act like a nitwit, you're acting as a nitwit. If you're a nitwit and you're not if you're not a nitwit and you act like a nitwit, then you act like a nitwit.
True.
So when I act like a nitwit, I know what I'm doing. I am a nitwit.
Point taken. But the Republicans, who of course never met a conspiracy theory that they don't like, at this point in time would be, I'm sure, just, cutting Biden up into pieces, worse than they've ever seen.
You brought this up, and I was going to make a note of it, and I said it'll never come up in the conversation. Bingo, it comes up right. A woman running for Congress, currently a congressman for the great state of Michigan, made a speech this weekend where she announced to the Republican crowd that it was Donald Trump who caught Osama bin Laden, that it was Donald Trump who had 4 years of no war anywhere in the world during his reign as minister of propaganda. And she said, qualifying all her statements was, if my memory doesn't fail me, knowing that she could lie to her faithful, get the endorsement of Donald Trump, like Sarah Palin did, and just go on with the level of lying and nonsense that, quite frankly, you wouldn't get from a second grader. You couldn't get this level of inanity from anybody except a Republican running in the shadow of Donald Trump.
No, there's one other place you get it, Michael. You get it from Vladimir Putin. You get it from, I mean, that's the more and more we look now at what's going on in Russia, the more and more we see that playbook is one right straight out of the Vladimir Putin. Tell them anything, and if you tell them enough, they'll start to believe it. It's brainwashing.
And we mentioned it last week. If Putin says it, it's so easy. Don't try and figure it out. Don't get your experts up in the middle of the night to find out what he's talking about. If he says it's a green ocean, it's not. If he says the sky is blue, it's not. If he says he's been there, he hasn't. If he says he's coming, he won't. Whatever he says, it ain't. That's exactly what you're not going to get.
Yeah, it's atrocious. Well, I don't know what's more atrocious, that these people put the stuff out there, or that there are people that are stupid enough or sick enough. I haven't decided whether it's mental illness or what it is to believe.
Yeah, you're right.
And I mean, how do you combat that? How do you get people to a place where they question and they reason and they say, well, wait a minute, if A and B don't go together, how can we get C? A has to fit into B before we get C, not B first, then A. How do you get people to the point where they question authority? Remember that bumper sticker you used to see?
Oh, yes.
When's the last time you saw one of those on the back of a car?
No one knows what it means anymore.
It's ridiculous.
And Vinnie, the thing is, if you look at the Donald Trump supporter, every morning when they wake up, they figure out what they have to believe that day. Oh, now I believe that Donald Trump found Osama bin Laden. I can believe that. Just remind me to believe that. Remind me again at noon when we get together for our meeting. Oh yeah, I believe that. What else do you believe? Well, anything. I'll believe anything. Just tell me what it is.
I saw something over the weekend that it just made so much sense to me. And the quote is, and it's on a movie marquee somewhere, and I'm going to put it up on our Facebook page here. It's, "We are drowning in information while starving for wisdom."
Did you happen to see 60 Minutes?
No, I didn't.
It was a interesting conversation with Laurie Anderson, the artist, Lou Reed's wife, his widow, and her ability to reflect the society we live in through art, her own personal form of art, is really quite extraordinary. And two things came from it. If you think technology is going to solve your problems, one, you don't understand technology, and two, you don't understand your problems. And that's the world we're in. We think we understand where we're going, think technology is going to take us there. It's not. We think that'll solve our problems. It won't, which means what's wrong with us right now is something that remains a mystery to us. Here's an example, Vinnie, of how technology is screwing us up already. Elon Musk is owns the company SpaceX. He
Right.
sends things into orbit. He sends men into space. He sends satellites here. He sends this there. He launched 40 satellites last week and is becoming the single largest purveyor in the world of satellite pollution. He'll put anything up for a buck. He'll take your satellite and put it up. He'll take my satellite and put it up right behind it. We are so reliant on satellites for our phone, for our television, for our communication, for everything that we do, all of our interplanetary communications, that without satellites, we can't communicate.
Right.
And we're putting up so many satellites that soon there won't be a space for them. And the satellite pollution will prevent us from, does this sound familiar at all? Anything? It's just like a garbage dump.
Yeah,
We filled the landfill.
The ocean.
Yeah, that's right. It's the new landfill. We're just throwing crap into space.
And there's no regulation for it. There's no, I mean, I guess.
Yeah, there is. You have to be a rich guy like Elon Musk.
Yeah. I guess if you have a ton of money, you can do it if you get contracts with the federal government to launch.
Excuse me.
Bless you. To show them that you're launching these vehicles into space is cheaper than if NASA does it. But there's something hinky about it. There's something I don't like about it, Michael.
Where does and then you ask, well, you're putting my satellite up today. Where's it going to be exactly? That'll be right up there behind Vinnie's satellite and right next to Biff's satellite. Biff Jiggerman's got a satellite. Biff Jiggerman World Information Center is in Kansas City, of course. And he's got 2 satellites. And when he wants another one, Elon Musk will put it up and it'll be right next to yours and behind mine.
Yeah, I just don't. I just wonder why we have. Well, I don't have to wonder why, because the whole idea that privatization will do it cheaper, will do it better, will do it this, will do it that, than the government could do. But this is not just a matter of privatization. This is a matter of national security. We don't know what he's putting up there, do we? The federal officers go and look at what he's putting into space?
If he put up 40 satellites, if he put up 40 satellites in a week, let's take a look at those accounts. Who the heck is doing what with those satellites?
Right. And I don't trust Elon Musk as far as I can throw him.
You shouldn't be trusting Elon Musk. You shouldn't be trusting him whatsoever at any point in your career. First of all, it'd be just like trusting Standard Oil. It'd be just like trusting anybody in the past. How did the beaver hat industry go for the beavers? Could have been better. Oh, there goes the cat.
Yes, I was just saying he mentioned beavers. The cat came walking through saying, wait a minute, if anybody's going to get turned into a hat around here, it's not going to be me.
It's not going to be me. I don't want to see a cat hat.
The cats are cooking. So, yeah, I mean, I just wonder why we let, because we get so enamored with that. Look at that. I mean, I remember when I used to go to Cape Canaveral, or Cape Kennedy as it then was called, and watch the rockets go up from my grandfather's property was within eyesight of Cape Canaveral. You could stand in the front of his orange stand there, a fruit stand, and look up and look out and see the rockets going up over the Indian River.
Could you feel it and hear it?
Yeah. Oh, yeah. I mean, you saw it. I mean, you heard it. You felt it. And it was just this shiny object going up. And we get so enamored with Elon and Bezos launching their rockets that we don't. I don't know what we question about it. What is the end game here? Well, who is, suppose Bezos or Musk or any one of these guys that are trying to do this decides to take a hunk of money from the Chinese.
Plus, did they ask And anybody in the government, any scientist who knows what they're doing, anybody from NASA. Now, Elon Musk is getting into the business. He's got lots of money. He's got the parts. He's got the rockets. He's got a bunch of guys who used to work for you now working for him.
Right.
And it's going to be great. We're going to put men in space. We're going to go to Mars. We're going to have private investment, and you guys need a bigger budget. Here's how the deal is. Plus, I just wanted you to know, to pay the bills and to keep the lights on, he's going to put about 40 satellites a week. What? Yeah, he's going to put up about 40 a week. Just to keep the money flowing, just so the things are happening to Elon Musk that are financially fun for him, to keep him in the game. 40 a week? Yeah, approximately, could be more.
Well, also, Michael, anybody who's ever watched a Roadrunner cartoon knows the basic premise of what goes must come down.
Like a 40-ton anvil.
Who's liable for that when it starts to happen? And you're putting 40 satellites up in a week. Who's taking responsibility for cleaning those satellites up? Who's taking responsibility for where they're going to fall?
It's an act of God. It's not Elon Musk's fault. You can't blame Leon or Elon. Why did I call him Leon? Same letters. It's just he mixed them up.
Soul Train scramble there. Yeah, I mean, there's so many questions about it. Listen, I'm all for space exploration. I'm all for science. I'm all for, I think, we won't see it in our lifetimes, but I'm all for putting somebody on Mars, although I don't think anybody's taken a poll of the Martians yet to see what they think about it. I can't imagine.
They've asked, they have a list of like 20 people on Earth that they really don't want there.
Yeah, they have a no-fly list already, the Martians.
And they keep adding to it.
And of course, the people that we want to send to Mars.
They don't want them.
They don't want them. They're all on the list.
Vladimir Putin, come on, get into your spacesuit. You are going to go to Mars.
If only. If only.
We keep thinking that something dramatic is going to happen with this war. And I thought that this weekend was one of the saddest weekends.
Something dramatically did happen with this war this weekend.
Did you see the Grammys?
Yes.
Did you see his Zelensky's speech?
Yes, I did.
Great speech.
Yeah. You could tell the guy's got acting chops.
Oh yeah, he knew the audience, and he knew where it was going.
Yeah, he knew it. His line about you guys are all there in tuxedos and wearing uniform, and I don't know who his speechwriter is, but he's pretty good.
Yeah, he hit that one really well. He really hit it well. And the idea that the only sound we have here is the sound of war. The sounds that you make, the sounds of beautiful music, that's not what we have. That's not what we have. And continue to make music, because the silence that's brought on by bombs is something you don't want to hear.
Yeah. Yeah, very powerful speech. With the atrocities that we saw revealed over the weekend, that we've seen this morning, the war crimes, the killing of civilians with their hands tied behind their back, stuff that you see in war movies, stuff that you don't even think that people really do. But if you go back and you look at what the Russians did in Germany when they invaded Germany, when they went during World War II, there was a lot of that stuff going on. The Russians were known as animals then.
Yes.
And I just, it seems more and more to me like something is going to have to happen to stop this. This can't continue. What we saw this weekend in the Ukraine cannot continue. And today, whether it's, and the cost is going to be high.
But it's going to be higher if we don't act.
Well, if we don't, these savages, these animals, and that's what they are, they're animals, are going to wreak this havoc in worlds and places, in countries and places that are a lot closer than the Ukraine.
Yeah, who's next?
Wrapping in their pants right now. I don't know how you do it. I'm not smart enough to figure this all out. There's a lot of generals, a lot of people that are smarter than me that know more than me about this kind of stuff. But I know that I look at what happened this week and what's been happening that we saw a solid proof of this weekend. And I was not only sickened, but as a person who believes in God and has faith, at some point you stop and you ask yourself, if there really is a God, why does he let this happen?
No, that's an old question.
Why does God let these savages kill children, kill innocent people? And I know there are people who will say, well, they're not innocent. The Russians can't separate the civilians from the soldiers. Well, the Russians shouldn't be there. It shouldn't be there. And you just wonder, Michael, how does a God who's supposed to protect, who's supposed to be, who's supposed to look at people and want the best for people, allow what's happening to happen?
When the Ukrainian helicopters went across the border and blew up that Russian fuel dump in Russia a couple of days ago, we thought, oh God, here we go. There's going to be a response. Well, guess what the response was? Nothing. Bupkis. And that's because the Russians don't have a response for that any more than they had a response for the first 6 weeks of this war. They're out of their depth. They don't have the men to do it. They don't have the quality of leadership that they require. They don't have anything that the Ukrainians are brimming over with. They don't have a lust for their nation. They don't have a need to see the job through. They don't have bravery. They don't have organization. They don't have food. They don't have gasoline. And so it seems to me, Vinnie, that when this cracks open and we have to enter the war, by we, I mean NATO, I think the Russian response is going to be, whoa, okay, hey, why didn't you say? Yeah, okay, you're serious about it? Why, you should have just said something. We would have stopped. So that's it. So the war's over. And we're happy it's over, and it's what we had in mind the whole time. And thank you very much for coming. And where can we meet you for the peace talks? You want to do it in Switzerland? We always do it in Geneva. That would be nice. Geneva this time of year is beautiful. I don't think the Russians have a stomach or the organization for war. Their years of Putin leadership has weakened every element of their society. Nothing works. I don't know how they keep the lights on. And so consequently, we're being very cautious, but I think we would be at a clear advantage if we had to go 1-to-1.
Well, I think the only thing that you have to worry about would go, I mean, I think if it was a conventional ground war, conventional, let's go in there and go to Moscow and, capture Putin and do to him what was done to Saddam Hussein and to Gaddafi and those types of dictators. Yeah, I think that would be, I wouldn't be a problem with that. I think we'd annihilate it. I can't imagine that the Russian people, when they saw American tanks coming down the street, would be all that unhappy, to be honest with you.
You think they would go that far, or would we just fight them back to the borders of Ukraine?
Well, how do you allow Vladimir Putin to stay in power after this?
Well, the good question is, how can you reliably take him out of power?
Well, that's
CIA. That's the CIA for you. Get in there, boys.
That's the great question: is what do you do? You can't. I mean, the Russian people are going to suffer no matter what, because you are now in a situation where you have a dictator, a leader, a war criminal who's running your nation, who is who nobody can deal with. Nobody wants to deal with him anymore. The only people that want to deal with him are the Chinese, because in the future they see a similar situation rearing its ugly head. But The Chinese have much more of a business sense than the Russians do. The Chinese say, well, listen, we'll take over the world, but we're not going to do it with guns. We're going to do it with computer chips.
And we don't want to lose our markets. We don't want to lose our European market.
And we got a good little thing going here when you really think about it. I mean, 30 years ago, we were throwing stones at each other's in little villages. Now look at the cities we're building. Look at we're world leaders in this and that, and the other thing. And, maybe we don't have Taiwan, but who the hell needs Taiwan anyway?
And right now, China is shutting down its major cities, including Shanghai, because of the COVID breakout. And 1 in every 17 people in Great Britain has COVID-19 now.
Yeah.
So that's just say 2 out of 20.
So I think, Michael, at some point,
2 out of 20 is 1 out of 10.
Yeah, you have to have the stomach as and then of course the elephant in the room is, well, if Putin thinks that he's done, does he figure he'll take everybody with him?
Everybody.
Is that much of a no good son of a bitch that he would say, well, I'm going to go, but I'm taking New York, Chicago, and Miami with me.
I'll trade you a Schenectady for Chicago.
Yeah, don't, if you want to take Miami, hey, but, and what's that look like? It's not the simple question of just going in and taking them out. It's a question of, when he goes, what does his exit look like?
Well, it seems that if we continue on this road at this pace with this level of involvement, this is going to go on for a year like this. It's going to be city after city showing us just what we saw this weekend. Bodies in the streets for the next year. I don't think we can handle that.
I was so sickened by it, Michael. I was so angered, so sickened, so heartbroken. We've gotten to know the Ukraine people as a country, as Americans, probably more than we ever did over the last 6 weeks.
Yes.
But I've known the Ukraine people and a lot of people from the Ukraine long before that. I grew up in a neighborhood that had a lot of Ukraine people that lived there.
Queens. Yeah.
Yeah, in Astoria. And they're such spirited, fantastic people. And tough people,
I should say.
I remember I had a friend in school. Well, actually, I met him in the hospital when I was in the hospital when I was a kid. Johnny Bakos.
Johnny Baby.
Guy that lived up in the Bronx. And this was one of the toughest 10-year-old, 11-year-old kids I ever met. He came over with his parents. They escaped Russia, the Ukraine. Back then it was all, but they escaped. And I remember going to church with him, because they have, they're Catholic, but there's a separate Ukrainian Orthodox church.
Yes.
And when you looked at the faces of these people, they were tough people, but they were happy to be free, to be out of Russia, to be away from, at that time, the Soviet Union, to get out. And I remember that growing up, that there was a bunch of people that I knew that were Ukrainians, Slovak, from that part of Europe, from Eastern Europe, but especially the Ukrainians. And I remember them again because they had the different, church with the cross with the third thing on it that's crooked.
The Orthodox cross.
Yeah, the Orthodox cross. And they were tough people, but really wonderful people. I remember this. Johnny's parents were come in, eat, his mother would send me home with stuff that she had made for my mother.
Cool.
You know, I mean, there was a sense of love there. And so for me to see these places that I've heard the names of and you know, have looked at on a map or something from time to time, but really have known for a long time through my association with these people growing up in New York, it's heartbreaking. And the fact that we can't do anything about it, that we've turned into such a nation that nobody fears us anymore. There's that great line in the movie A Bronx Tale. Is it better to be loved or feared? I don't know. There's some days where it's better to be loved, but you sure like to have a couple of days where you're feared also.
Makes it easier for them to love you if they fear you first.
And I just, I just was so repulsed and so heartbroken to see. I mean, there's that one story of those people who were in their car and they got caught turning around, and it's the husband and wife. They're in a white car, and they've left the corpse of the guy after they shot him. The corpse is there, and it's laying there, and his wedding band is on his finger, and they killed his wife. I guess there was somebody else in the car, and the little kid got away. And not only did they shoot them and kill them, but then they came back and they burned the bodies and the car. Car was not on fire until they set fire to the car. And they have this all on like surveillance video.
This is because the Russians are losing so desperately. They're in fear. They're angry. They're fearful of every corner that they cross, either in their tanks or on foot. They can't win the block-to-block war. All they can do is kill civilians, unarmed, innocent people trying to get out of that town.
Yeah, that's all they're trying to do, and they're trying to get away from them. Take the place. You want to take it, just let us get out of here. And they won't even do that.
No,
they won't even let them safely traverse whatever area they have to use to get out of there.
Now, you know what this creates is a back at you idea. What do you think the Ukrainian neighbors are going to do the next time they get a Russian in the street?
Oh, it's not going to be pretty.
And his gun jams, and he hasn't got a weapon anymore. Down he goes in pieces.
Nobody's taking prisoners.
No.
No, you're not going to need the POW camps. We're not going to feed these son of a bitches.
Turn it into a parking lot, make some money. We're not going to bring anybody back to camp.
Yeah. And can you blame them?
No, I don't blame them.
Can you blame people who 6 weeks ago were going about their business?
Who's the most afraid, the Russian driving into town or the people there waiting for him?
I still think the people waiting for him, because the Russians have the firepower. They, even though they're not winning the war, they are destroying these people's homes, their lives, their bodies. So I would still put it. I mean, I wouldn't want to be a Russian soldier over there, which leads me to the part of this that says, why don't the Russian soldiers just give up?
Some of them have.
I mean, that's what you need to start seeing. I think the only way that you can get out of this is at a point where you start to see the Russian tanks just stop and guys put their hands up.
Yeah, let the Russian tanks fly the white flag.
Yeah. Yeah, we're not going to fight. And if you do that, if the Russian army does that, maybe you got a chance at stopping this thing without. Well, to me, that's right now, that's the only way. I mean, if you're a Russian soldier, what are you fighting for?
You're fighting mostly to stay alive.
When Americans, when French, when British, when all of these different nationalities went to war, what were they? There was always a reason. Even if you want to say that the stupidest quagmire we ever got involved with, Vietnam, there still was a feeling among many people until the truth really came out that the reason you were doing this was to stop communism, was to stop something that could engulf our world. And then a year or two later, people kind of figured out what was really going on. But as troops went over there, they thought that they were fighting for. But as soon as they found out what they were really fighting for, which was nothing, what happened?
And here we are again. What are the Russians fighting for? For the most part, they're fighting for nothing. They think that there's the Ukraine is at stake, but Ukraine was never theirs for the taking. Ukraine was never going to go down easy. Ukraine was never going to be just annexed and become part of, like, Belarus. And to believe it was that way, to believe that was so, was one of the 10 major mistakes that they made before they ever crossed the border.
Yeah.
Everything they're doing is wrong. Their supply lines are wrong. Their intelligence is wrong. Their training is wrong. This idea that they're going to come up with another 130,000 conscripts, you know how long that takes? To contact somebody at home, to bring them in, to get them into uniform, to train them, to feed them, to get them in the mindset where they're an actual soldier. You can't send somebody off the streets in St. Petersburg, take him out of his uniform, and take away his jeans and put him in a tank and expect that to be a war that can be won. That's a war that can't even be fought.
Right. But part of the problem is you have Putin in his machine.
No, he has the right to do it. He has the means to do it.
Trying to set this war up is that the Ukrainians invaded us. They did this. They had this. They're Nazis. They had war crimes. Did this, that, the other thing. Putin is using this huge propaganda machine, much as Hitler did. It's the same playbook, right? The world is against us.
The playbook subsequently used by Donald Trump, lie about everything.
Exactly. I mean, it's Trump's. There's no difference in what they're doing. So I don't know how in the world how do you fight that? I mean, yeah, you can beam stuff in, Radio Free Europe and this and that and the other thing. But the reality is, Michael, is that does the average Russian even hear that? I mean, why does the average Russian think that there's no lettuce in the produce department?
And there's not going to be any lettuce. It was gone last week and it's not coming back.
Now,
you can't get Band-Aids. You can't get milk. You can't get anything that you need at the store. It's been that way for a week.
Now, the one thing that I have to wonder about, though,
he's back.
Pisses me off is why are we still doing anything with the Russians? Why is the free world buying their oil? Why is the free world pumping money into their economy? Why is anybody anywhere helping the Russians survive right now? Oh, well, we don't want to help the people. Well, if the people in Russia start to starve, if the people in Russia can't get milk or can't get goods or can't get this or that or the other thing, aren't the people in Russia going to start to ask questions at some point?
It's not a good thing to do in Russia. It's a very dangerous procedure.
Except if you have enough people asking those questions. You see, if you have enough people asking those questions, if all of a sudden, all of the stuff that's going on, and, we live in an age where you can block some information, but you can't block it all.
Impossible.
Social media is too big, too powerful. And
everybody's got a phone, even in Russia. Everyone's got a phone.
Yeah. So at some point you have to think that, but it's something has to happen, Michael. Something has to be done. You can't continue to allow what's going on to go on.
There has to be a solution. There has to be a ratcheting up of tensions. It's going to get worse before it gets better. But we meaning NATO, have to take, I believe, the next step. And I don't think we're in agreement as what that is. The most effect we can have right now is to continue to use that Polish border as a embarkation, a landing zone. That's our new landing zone. Everything goes through the Polish border. All the rockets, all the over-the-shoulder anti-aircraft, all the jeeps, all the cars, all the ammunition, all the backup, all the food, all the medicine.
Yeah.
Everything that the nation requires has to be bloody, coming through there like a hurricane. It has to come through, and there can't be a stop to it. The Russians would just say, "How come we don't have this stuff? How come we're fighting a better army than ourselves? They're better armed than we are." Every time we drive down the street, they blow us up with their rockets. Well, let that be the case. And I don't care how many more we have to send today. Send 500,000 more rockets. Get them across the border. Get them in the hands of the insurgencies. Anybody can fire a rocket.
Agree on that, Roto. The Germans don't want to send this. We were going to send these tanks, but we can't deliver them through Poland. They got to go through this place. You got to go to. I mean,
that was
folks,
jets.
Get your act together here. Figure out a way to get the people the things that they need to fight these bastards. Why are they sitting around? And stop buying that damn oil. Stop buying anything that they have. No bank should be doing business with them. No company should be doing. If you do business with them, you should be a pariah. You should be an outcast.
Like the Koch brothers, you mean?
Like anybody. Republican, Democrat, if you do business with the Russians, you should be done. You should be gone. You should be, you are enabling a regime to tie children's hands behind their backs and kill them.
Everything that happens now is part our fault. Everything that goes on from this month forward into history is not just Russia and Ukraine, but all the people who are watching from the sidelines, helping, trying to make a difference, but not entering the fray. And so that becomes our fault.
I'll use $10 less worth of gas or $20 less. Well, that's nothing these days. I'll use $100 worth of gas to, if it means that the world can buy 10 gallons less of Russian oil. I'll walk, I'll take a bus, I'll do what I got to do. You tell me what I can do to stop this bastard, and I'll sacrifice. I'll do it. I'm at that point. I'm just so sickened by what I saw. What I knew what was going on, but now you see it. Something has to happen, Michael. Prayers aren't working. It's like the mass shootings
in Sacramento.
You can have prayers and condolences all day.
Well, the Republicans call it thoughts and prayers. It's just we had a killing today. Thoughts and prayers. I'll be right back. I'm just going into the men's room. Thoughts and prayers. Thoughts and prayers.
Yeah.
Don't you want to know any of the details? It really doesn't matter all that much. No, thoughts and prayers. Thoughts and prayers.
I want to see action. I want to see the world come together. More solid than they have been. Simple. And Trump, you know what I like? And Trump, that son of a bitch. I mean, that whole thing last week about him asking Putin for information. I mean, there's a guy that should be thrown in jail. Yes. I've had it with him too. Anybody that thinks that Trump is for this country and for America is a sick bastard.
You have not been paying attention.
When you would go to the leader of a nation that would do that, that would kill innocent children like that.
Also, how can you make nice with someone who's every aspect of war without the declaration of war? We are at war with Russia. We are in support of the effort to keep Europe free with NATO. And there's Donald Trump asking him over to play canasta. Sit down, have a drink, have some big ziti.
How could you sit in a room with that guy? If you loved America, how could you sit in a room with him, Michael?
Well, Trump hopes to be strong like that someday. So that's what he sees for his future.
He can't be strong like that. He doesn't. He's a pussy.
And that way there won't be any more elections. He can just appoint himself president for life and go play golf. Take the day off. Good job.
I'm sad, Michael. I'm so sad about it.
It was the saddest weekend of this war.
Yeah, I'm so distraught about it. I so want to figure out what I can do to help the Ukrainian people, Zelenskyy, and the people, and also help the people in places like Poland and Moldova who have taken these people in, who have taken them into their houses, people that they don't know, but help them get away from this. I mean, I I said this to somebody yesterday. I apologize for every Polish joke I ever told in my life. I really do.
I understand.
I really do, because what I've seen from the Polish people over the last 5-6 weeks has touched my heart, has made me just have such, because it's all just selfless. Come in, we'll help you. I mean, Poland isn't a rich, spectacularly rich nation. They've been fortunate since they were moved away from the Russian influence, since Lech
Walesa, yeah,
and Solidarity and all of that. They were able to prosper, and now they're paying it back, and in ways that they never thought they would.
And like the Ukrainians, they know from the Russians.
They know the Russian story.
They know them.
They know them, and they know what it's like to be taken over like that. And then I bet you any kid in Poland who doesn't know what September 1st, 1939 means.
Of course.
No matter how many generations back. I wonder sometimes if you walked out here and asked 20-year-olds what December 7, 1941 is.
It's almost Christmas.
And they look at you like, oh, well, that means I got to pay off my credit card so I can buy a lot of crap for Christmas.
I got to get my Versace right so I can go to the Grammys in Las Vegas.
What about that John Batiste, huh?
I liked the new Bruno Mars group, Silk Sonic.
Silk Sonic, yeah.
That first number they did with the dancing band and the song about Vegas. It's not on their album. Too bad. I was trying to find that song to download it last night. But Bruno Mars and that band, they have got it together.
He's kind of underrated, not underrated, but I don't know that he gets the credit that he should. Bruno Mars. He did last night. Yeah, he's a hell of a performer. I really enjoy watching him, and he and I'm a real fan of John Batiste too, because Batiste and Bruno Mars, and I don't know, again, as we've talked about last week, you got to be careful because you never know what people are like personally, but we're talking about their performances. they shed such joy and light into the space that they're in, especially John Batiste. I mean, I've seen him do a number of things. I've been a fan of his for a long time. And he's just such a, he brings a spirituality with him, with his music. I almost call it George Harrison-like.
Mm-hmm.
You know, where Harrison really, I mean, people don't, you know, probably not people, but there's a lot of people who didn't realize, I think, at the time, how spiritual George Harrison was.
Yes.
And how when you go back and you look at the things that he wrote and the music that he created, he was the one that the yogi got to.
Yeah, the Mahesh.
Yeah, Hesh, I like to call him.
Heshi.
He was the one that really, when you start to look at the Beatles, he's the guy that took on, that really took that serious. I mean, I guess in reading about him, he always was spiritual, but there was a certain spirituality that he took on once the Beatles was done. That was really, and again, you know, it was reflected in some of his songs, "My Sweet Lord," so on and so forth. The concert for Bangladesh, which really was the first benefit,
super monster benefit, yeah,
concert. It gave birth to everything else.
And that became a reality because Ravi Shankar said, "You got to do something. What can I do?" No, you don't understand, George. You're big enough to do something.
Yeah. I think it was the first time that the rock and roll world realized the kind of power it did have.
Right.
And so you had a concert from Bangladesh and No Nukes and the other different things that came along that allowed the rock and roll world to flex its muscles in a way that I don't think anybody in music ever did before. Now, certainly you had musicians that went across and they entertained troops and so on and so forth. They didn't do good things.
I'm surprised there hasn't been a big concert, a worldwide concert for Ukraine.
There's been a lot of smaller ones. I mean, I know there was one, was it over the weekend here? Downtown. There was another one, but there was maybe a country music one or something I saw, but no, there hasn't been that huge show yet. Although I suspect that after last night, the speech that Zelenskyy gave, if it didn't motivate people, I mean, I'm pumped up about it. I mean, I'm sitting here going, what the hell can I do?
Well, remember, We Are the World. That was a huge concert that when at Wembley and Philadelphia's JFK Stadium.
Right.
Simultaneously with now back to London for Queen, now back to Philadelphia for the Beach Boys. That's the type of worldwide organization that I think we require for this response.
Yeah, I think there has to. Yeah, I think that and this is where rock and roll can do so much good, because it crosses so many lines. Speaking about rock and roll doing good, did you see what opened up this weekend in New Jersey?
No.
The Wanderer.
It's a Dion
That's
theme park?
Dion's life story in a play, a la Jersey Boys.
Right.
He's put, they wrote a play and it premiered to the public this weekend in just outside of Manhattan, a train ride from Manhattan. I am absolutely gonna try to go see it when I get back to New York. And by all accounts, from what I've read, it's actually really good.
Well, the music's good.
Yeah. But it takes the story of Dion going from a street kid singing under the lamp on Belmont Avenue in the Bronx, through his addiction, through his gospel, and to his present day.
Man's had a lot of hits, and his voice remains really strong and beautiful.
It's like honey dripping over dripping over a teapot. You know,
And he never, with all the songs he's sung and all the years he's put in, he never answered the question, why must I be a teenager in love? Why?
Well, he stopped being able to answer it when he turned 20, didn't he?
But it applies to everyone. It applies to you right now. Why are you, Vinnie, a teenager in love? Why?
You know what? I'm the last guy who and you know, it's odd because the guy who wrote "Why Must I Be a Teenager in Love" has been married to the same woman for, was it 50 years or something?
I remember Dion was in Miami for a while when he was getting rid of the monkey on his back. And we used to do one-act plays on the university campus at the Wesley Center. And we were in there rehearsing one night, and Dion walks in, hands in his pocket, looks around. I know who it was. I didn't say a word. I should have. I should have sat him down and learned his life story. But I didn't say a word. And it was just so cool. He was there looking around. You guys working on plays? Yeah, we're rehearsing. Ah, it's cool. See you. And he leaves. And I just thought, I was so nervous that I was relieved when he left. But all the years later, I keep thinking about that scene because I could have said something. I didn't thank him for the music. I didn't thank him for the hits. I didn't thank him for his career as I would now. I didn't shake his hand. I didn't make any motion toward him at all. It embarrasses me that I was nervous, so I didn't do anything. Now the fact that I did nothing bothers me all these years later.
When I got a chance to meet him and interview him, so many years ago, I was like a little schoolboy.
Yeah.
You know, I was just like I thought I was going to piss in my pants. And I thanked him not for the Wanderer, not for all of the things with the Belmonts or anything like that, or Ruby Babe, or all of them. I thanked him for, and this is when he reconnected. I said, thank you for writing Your Own Backyard, which is a song he wrote about his addiction. I said, I know you probably know this, but I can't tell you how many people I know, including myself, that when they were fighting the demons of addiction, listened to that song over and over and over again. It was a theme for Narcotics Anonymous back in the 80s and the 90s, and probably remains. And it was an obscure song. It was right after Abraham Martin and John. It never charted. I don't know. You know what? It might have charted. I take that back. It might have charted, but I just remember how many people that I talked to about that song and listened to that song, and it helped them.
Yes.
And when I said that to him, he kind of got, he got it. And we did the interview, and when he just said, thanks for letting me know that. And that's what, when you know this, when you know somebody's work intimately
Yes.
enough that you can mention that one thing that they think nobody knows about. And then they know, just like if somebody comes up to us and says, man, I remember the day I was driving down the street and you were talking to Chris Schenkel, or you were doing this, you do that. You know that they got it.
Right.
And you help them, not that they need your validation for their career, but you know that you let them know that they touched you in a way, not just from the little speaker in your dashboard, but from their writing in voice to your heart or to your mind. And I don't know an artist in the world that doesn't live for that.
And when Dion went on with his career later in life, he returned to the beautiful music of his early career. The idea that playing with a small band, but three vocalists, his background vocals, the harmonies, the oohs, the ahs, the delivery, the energy of the 50s is there. And the early 60 harmonies that he had many hits with, it's gold. It's golden. There's not another Dion. There's like, well, yeah, it was like 3 or 4 guys like Dion. No, there weren't. There were a lot of people making records in those days, but his talent and his gifts have survived all the changes through time. And I guess he's in his 70s now, but he can still do it, and he does it well, and he does it with a lot of emotion and joy. You can still see him on Belmont Avenue under the streetlight when he does his hits, when he does his piece, when he gets on stage and hits you with it.
Well, we played that clip. I mean, we had that clip on that he had put up. What were they sitting having lunch? Him and a bunch of his friends.
That's so cool.
We're sitting there having lunch, and for some reason, it just started. Was it The Wanderer?
Yes, it was The Wanderer.
It was The
I'm
Wanderer.
the kind of guy.
Yeah, it was.
Wow, wow.
And it was like everybody at the table. Now, these were not, I don't even know if they were musical friends.
Oh, yeah, they're his guys.
Yeah. And it just broke into this a cappella, sitting at the table, like you would at a party, start to sing along with a song on the record. Yeah. And it was one of the most magical things you ever saw.
Just Google it today or Facebook it. I mean,
I'll look for it and I'll put it up on the Facebook page.
It's on YouTube. They're sitting at a picnic table, and yeah, they do it a cappella.
Yeah. So if you're in the New York area and you get a chance, and I'll post the information up on the Facebook page, go see this play. You'll see it now, and it'll be as if you went to what was it, the Santa Monica Playhouse when Jersey Boys was premiered, was rolled out. I think that's where they first rolled it out. And I think that this play, this story, because it has a different twist to it than the Jersey Boys, but it's in that vein of you're sitting there and you know the songs.
Oh yes,
and the music is accessible to you, and you remember it, and it's a great story. Not only of a kid from the neighborhood that made it, but a kid from the neighborhood who made it, fell down, got up, made it again, fell down, got up, made it again, and got up, and then stayed up. And if you're a sucker for a great story,
nothing like a true story to make it work.
Yeah, it's a phenomenal story. I haven't seen it yet, but I can tell you, just because you and I are such Dion fans and we know this guy's life.
So when they do the concert for Ukraine, make sure Dion's on the bill.
I would love, get yourself Yo Frankie and listen to that album.
Yeah.
And listen to the people he harmonizes with. His harmonies with Paul Simon.
Oh yeah.
And Lou Reed. I think he has Simon and Reed backing him up on one song. So imagine that the Belmonts were the Beatles. I mean, and then on top of it, you have like the E Street Band and Todd Rundgren's people from Utopia on the album as well.
That's a great lineup. Fabulous musicianship.
It was a great album.
Yo Frankie,
just a spectacular. He's still cranking out albums. He did a blues album about a year ago.
Yes.
And it was a great, he went back to his honey dripping vocals. And again, it's like you're pouring sugar. It's like you're pouring chocolate on top of a coconut bar.
Ooh, that's tasty.
Yeah, with the almonds. He's either the mountains or the almond joy of music.
Well, you see, at times when the world is this angry and this sad, music is about the only place you can go for solace. and that's why I sense a concert is coming, but I don't know who or where or who's going to be on the bill.
Yeah, I think you're right, Michael. I think we need. I think, and Zelensky said it last night in that speech. He said, if you haven't seen the speech, go on YouTube. It's all over the place. Just
Yeah.
put in Zelensky and the Grammys, and you'll see it, and you listen to it. It's only a minute and change long. It's not a long speech, but it'll move you. It'll touch you. It's a call to action.
It is for citizens.
For citizens, for regular people who love music and regular people who believe that music can affect change, like we believe, or I'm speaking for you, we lived through a time when music did affect change.
Music was the change.
And I'm not going to say that, Vladimir Putin's going to hear a song one day and he's going to stop killing people.
Nope, that's not the way it's going to work.
But it'll work what he might do, though, is if he sees the entire world is against him, and there are no exceptions except his group of cronies, and even the cronies aren't really with him.
They're just afraid
that he goes away, or he is, or other people are emboldened enough and empowered enough to give him the Mussolini treatment.
Mussolini went out in a very undignified way, just as he deserved, and it's Putin's turn.
Yeah, it really is. And I'm glad that President Biden didn't walk back his comments about him.
He renewed them today.
The guy's a criminal. He needs to go.
The sooner the better.
I mean,
not just down the road so he can get a place at Mar-a-Lago. He has to go permanently.
What was that great line from President Donald Trump? Putin should be let into NATO.
Yeah, let him in the G7 and G8. Let him join all the clubs. Let him join the Mar-a-Lago Golf Club.
Yeah, he's a good guy, Putin. I wonder if he took his. I wonder if what's the little Barron? I wonder if he took Barron out and tied his hands behind his back and shot him.
It's coming.
Feel the same way.
Yeah, I think that's coming.
Animal.
Well, we'll see what the animals do between now and Wednesday, Vinny. We'll see if Wednesday is as angry and as sad as today was.
Yeah. It almost seems inconsequential here, but who do you got in tonight's game?
Kansas.
Yeah, I hate to say it. I mean, I'd like to see North Carolina win only because I know it would make George Karl happy. And Sam
I want George to be happy, but that's as soon as I saw the lineup, I just thought, well, Kansas.
Yeah, I don't. Something surprising may happen, but I don't think so. I think Kansas is going to take control of this one. All right, Mikey. I will see you on Wednesday. Sorry if I ranted a little bit today. I'm just so.
You can't help it, Vin, because it's because of the designated hitter.
Yeah, that's really what it is, Michael. And we'll talk about that more later in the week too. Talk about atrocities. All right, man. We'll see you on Wednesday morning if the Lord's will and the creek don't rise. Have a good one, Mikey, and
have a good one, Vinny.
Out there. Have a good one as well. I'm sorry I didn't match up here. Lime green with blue and yellow might not be the best.
No, I like the lime green. Stick with it. Commit to it.
Peace, love, and Manischewitz, baby.
What a wine with an emphasis on the peace.
Have a good one, man.